Behold Cannon Spike, or if you prefer the arcade naming Gunspike, an arcade shooter developed by Psikyo and later published by Capcom on the Sega Dreamcast. Probably the most notable aspect of this game being the fact that it was the last officially released Dreamcast title in PAL territories. That, and as of late, the price has pretty much skyrocketed. Negating the fact that this was a budget title and $30 at launch, I suppose the limited quantity available are bringing that number a bit towards the top end. So I suppose the question is the game actually worth it? Well, welcome to the channel. I'm the Southern Sega Gentleman. Let's break it down. At its core, Cannon Spike is your run-of-the-mill arcade shooter. Granted, it's not really scrolling or anything. Think more Smash TV or maybe even loaded to a degree. You'll be thrown into an arena and face off against a few wave of mechanized baddies. After that, you'll be greeted by a mid-stage boss, then finally an end-of-stage boss to wrap it all up. Rinse and repeat this cycle 10 times and boom, you've got your story mode beat for that character. Honestly, on the normal difficulties, this can be done in under 20 minutes, so to beat the game with each character probably won't take much more than an hour and a half or so. I suppose it's a good thing you're given 7 difficulty settings to pick from at the very least. The character selection itself is a Capcom showroom worth of options, boasting a roster of heavy hitters with a few lesser known members of the family thrown in for good measure. You'll have access to both Cammy and Charlie of Street Fighter fame, BB Hood from Darkstalkers, author of the classic Ghosts and Goblins, and of course Mega Man. Sheba from the lesser known Three Wonders and a new character Simone are also worth a mention, especially since both of them have some pretty awesome attacks. So what about the story? What story? The only mention of one is that the game's boot up and after you complete the game. Basically, the world economy has collapsed, android machine terrorists are everywhere, and you're here to save the day as a member of some special response team. Arcade filler at its finest. Really though, Cannon Spike is running and gunning. That's your story. While you're doing said running and gunning, you'll be utilizing a pretty simplistic control setup. 2 modes of fire, a constant machine gun and a heavy attack. You'll also get 2 melee attacks and a special. And to throw in a little replayability, the devs gave each character all their own custom attacks. You know what's not simple though? Aiming where you want to aim. I know this is a tired old complaint of the DC, but can someone please enable the use of a dual thumbstick pad on this game? Most games like this map some kind of turning or strafing mechanic to the shoulder buttons. Not Cannon Spike. No. This game gives you a lock-on that sucks. Yeah, I hear you. Get good. But really, Capcom? The game only had 3 buttons in the arcade. Why couldn't you have just designated turning to the shoulder triggers? Whatever. When in doubt, just strafe around the map like a fixed turd, I suppose. Progression through the story mode does offer a fair amount of enjoyment and challenge. Besides some enemies employing swarm attacks, you also have plenty of interesting enemy types with their own special attacks. Notable mentions being the flame troopers from the slope mission and the ninja wannabes from the occupied town level. As you defeat this horde of terrorist robots and gorillas that spit out wasp, you'll be able to pick up health, special attack tokens, and most importantly, more health bars. Each playthrough will have the level order randomized up until the 8th mission. Doesn't matter what sequence they're in though, because they progressively get harder. Mission 9 and up just get ridiculous on some difficulties, so racking up those health bars, keeping them full, and having a volley of specials is a pretty big deal. Boss battles, which there most certainly are plenty, almost feel more like a straight shoot 'em up than they do a running gun. Not only do some of them go straight bullet hell on you, but most have 2 stages. It helps to break up the monotony of the wave attacks and presents the best replay value of the game as far as I'm concerned, as it gives you a chance to swap out attack strategies and try for a better score. So what about the graphics? Well, I've got another complaint here. The art style for the cover, the character cards, and the end screens are amazingly hand-drawn 2D images, and they fare much better off than the 3D models, which honestly aren't all that great. Even by Dreamcast standards, the character models are bland and prone to hard angles all over the place. Just look at Mega Man over here. I would have absolutely loved it if the game had gone for a more cel-shaded look to keep with a 2D aesthetic, but considering the fact that more often than not you'll be zoomed out pretty far, it's not terribly noticeable. As mentioned earlier, there are a number of character models used, and boss designs are varied to a large degree, so there is enough to look at without becoming too bored of it. I mean, the game does have character in its appearance. It looks nice, especially pumped out over VGA, but it's not the most colorful or striking game in the DC's library by any stretch of the imagination. As for completion bonuses, you'll get the standard cutscene at the end of a playthrough and some character artwork, all pretty standard for the late 90s and early aughts. Not much else though. I honestly wish the game had ramped up the difficulty like other games by the devs, like say Gunbird or Sengaku Blade, but that's not the case here. You do have the option to play with a friend, and doing so will net you a couple of different endings, but really, that's about it. Now look, I know I've painted this whole review pretty poorly, but the truth is I really do enjoy this game. So final verdict time. Is Cannon Spike worth the pickup? At a $150 price point, no, not unless you're a die-hard collector. Not even the $100 Japanese import, which is plenty import friendly, is worth it in my eyes. But the game is worth playing. It's an amazing title to pick up and play for a half hour or so, but it doesn't keep my interest very long outside of beating my own score or trying to beat the game on the highest difficulty. It was a budget title, plain and simple. It wasn't meant to give a fully fleshed out experience like, say, an RPG. So, if you can find it in the wild or succumb to more nefarious means to play it, go right ahead. Hey, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more from me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to stay up to date with me, go ahead and hit the bell right beside it. As always, this is the SSG, signing out.